Good evening to those of you who are here in the Bay Area. Good morning to those of you who are in China. Early morning there, I know. And good afternoon to those of you who are in other parts of the world. We are very pleased that you're able to join us today. We know, we acknowledge, and we feel how tough a year this has been for everyone. This has been a tough year for our students. It's been a tough year for all of us at the university. And it's been tough because of the conditions created by the pandemic. That said, we are also keenly aware of the problems of visa issuance all around the world, visa delays, sometimes visa denials. And we are also cognizant that our students in China are having a much more difficult time, which has to do more than just the pandemic. So we thought we would get together with all of you today. Our goal in this meeting is to connect with you, share information with you about the fall quarter, share information about the advocacy work that Stanford is doing on your behalf. We do want to hear from you. We encourage you to ask questions, and we hope to answer as many questions as we can. That said, let me start with some quick introductions. I'm Shalini Bhutani. I'm the director of the Bechtel International Center, the center you will get to know very well when you're all on campus. We issue your visa documents that allow you to apply for student visas to come to the US. Joining me today are many of my Stanford colleagues who you will probably get to know very well when you're here. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Mona, did you want to start?
Yes. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Mona Hicks. I'm the Senior Associate Vice Provost and Dean of Students at Stanford. And it's my honor to share this space with you. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I just want to welcome you and thank you for coming to be with us today.
Megan?
Hello, I'm Megan Arliss. I'm the Assistant Vice President for Federal Relations for the university. I am based in Washington, D.C., and I look forward to talking with you today about the advocacy work that the university has been undertaking to improve the conditions that all of you are facing relating to visa processing and the things that Shalini just spoke about.
Stacy?
Hi, I am Stacy Bent. I'm the Vice Provost for Graduate Education and Postdoctoral Affairs. I'm also a professor in chemical engineering and look forward to hearing your questions and hopefully meeting all of you in person in the not too distant future.
Helen, how about you? Helen?
Oh, sorry. Hi, everyone. I'm Helen Doyle. I'm Associate Vice Provost for Graduate Education, and I work with Stacy and echo her thoughts of looking forward to meeting you all very soon. Thank you for being here.
Elsa?
Hi, I'm Elsa. I'm the Associate Director of Bechtel International Center. So Bechtel International Center is here to support you in your immigration issues and concerns.
Rolando?
Hi, everyone. My name is Rolando Villalobos. I'm Assistant Director and Assistant Dean of the International Center. I help oversee the advising to over 5,000 students. We consider all of you as part of our Stanford family, and we're happy to be here to try to help answer some questions.
Ankita?
Hi, everyone. I'm Ankita Rake. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Assistant Dean of Student Support, so provide some support for student communities. Thank you.
Mona, you want to take it away?
Yes. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself and the work we're committed to doing to support you and all of our students in student affairs. I have only been at Stanford for a year and 3 months. So some of you I have not yet had the opportunity to see or meet at all. And I look forward to having that connection with you in the fall or as soon as possible. The 5 areas that we really pay attention to in student affairs includes equity and inclusion. So we are intentionally working, and Keitha and many of our colleagues, to design experiences and systems that ensure that everyone has opportunities. mental health and well-being. So whether you're near in the Bay or far from campus, we're trying to transition all of our, the foundation of our support for you around health and well-being, so that you are your best self to learn and grow at Sanford. Integrated learning. So we're really thinking about how we can be more purposeful about your experience and your learning, both in the classroom and outside of the classroom. And as well, this critical piece that we call house and order. And so what's interesting about that, for those of you who are not with us at Stanford, that we hope you see that in the ways in which we're improving our services and support online, so that you can see and find and navigate your way around campus and get access to resources, and that our core functions are very clear for you. What I would say most importantly is about the Dean of Students office is that we really do our best work when we are trying to help individual students find their way. And what I try to describe and our team describes is this opportunity to serve as a compass for you, and that can be more important now. And the purpose of our time with you today is that we want to be the true north that you can get back to as soon as you can. But in the meantime, to be thinking about the critical ways that we can provide additional support, listen, and care, and help guide you along the way. So we hope to find you back here again with us soon, and we will hold that compass for you along the way. That's it. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you,
being
Mona.
here.
Megan.
Thanks, Shani. So I wanted to just take a minute and start off my remarks by letting you know that advocating for the changes to government policies to address the challenges that our international students have faced in the past, are currently facing, and will face in the future, is truly a top priority of our work in the Office of Government Affairs, and certainly in my work here in Washington and in talking with our government officials. Unfortunately, I don't have any new specific information to share related to any potential changes that might be coming on these issues that I know that are impacting many of you and your ability to obtain visas and to travel to the US. But I did want to take this time and this opportunity to provide you with some information on what we have been doing to advocate on behalf of our international students. This has been going on for years. This has long been a priority of the university and our work in Washington. But specifically over the past year, the university has been in direct contact with high-level officials in the previous Trump administration when they were in office, with the current Biden administration once they took office, and as well as with key leaders in Congress, to really express our grave concerns about the myriad of policies that have impacted our international students and scholars, and especially those from China. Most recently, just over the past month, we have been actively working in partnership with universities across the country, with national groups, to bring attention to the delays that are occurring in visa processing, and of course the continued closures of the consulates in China and the impact that's having on all of you. President Tessier Levine just last month wrote to the Secretaries of State and the Department of Homeland Security. Those are the two agencies that are key to moving visa processing along, and things like work authorization applications, asking them to work together to address the delays that all of you are experiencing, and to give international students and scholars priority in the visa appointment process, and consider any ways in which they can speed and ease the consideration of your visas and your work authorization applications. When we've continued to even echo that message with key leaders in Congress, and asking for their help as well, and to encourage that students be prioritized in the visa application process once consulates reopen and visa processing resumes. And please know that we are not the only institution having these messages sent to key policymakers in Washington. This is being echoed by many of our peers, by many universities across the country, and by national groups that we work closely with. The other thing I just wanted to touch briefly on today is our advocacy and our continued communication with federal policymakers in Washington on the fact that we believe that the US policy should never include any blanket restrictions of people based on their country of origin or their heritage. And we have asked the Biden administration to eliminate all of the policies of the previous administration that included any blanket limitations, revocations, or eliminations of visas for our international students and scholars. We will continue to deliver that message to the Biden administration and to Congress. And please know that we will continue to strongly advocate for the policy changes that are needed to address the challenges that many of you are facing.
Thank you, Megan. Stacy.
Right. Okay. So one thing I didn't mention in my introduction is not only am I a vice provost here, but I was also a graduate student at Stanford. So I really know the excitement for those of you who are not yet at Stanford, you feel about beginning your studies here, and those of you continuing, just the preparation for an upcoming academic year. Of course, we're not in a normal situation, and the university has been continuing to provide the highest level of research and teaching for our students that it can under the pandemic. One thing you should know is about the fall, and the university is planning for as normal a fall as possible. Of course, it depends on the public health situation at the time. But because of that, students who are planning to enroll at Stanford for the fall should plan to be on campus in person. And we're excited about that. We are so excited to have our students all here, but we recognize that has challenges, especially for international students in certain countries who are facing delays in visa processing, including China. So the university is really working hard to try to provide the resources to help our students get here when possible. And we look forward to answering questions that you have about that. And I'm just sorry that this continues to be such an uncertain and stressful time for many of our students abroad. And I'd like to thank the Bechtel team for hosting this town hall and all of you for joining.
Ankita, did you want to tell us a little bit about how we're taking questions from students?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Ankita.
So you can use the Q&A icon at the very bottom of your Zoom to ask questions. And I'll read them out loud as we get them, and you can start asking now. And then we might type an answer to, we might answer aloud, and you can ask anonymously. So if you are concerned about those types of things, you can just toggle it to that and ask anonymously, and we'll try to get to all the questions.
I see we already have 2 questions.
We do. So
we do.
First one, maybe we just want someone to comment on it. So someone said that a quick update, I called the US Embassy in Beijing. All consular and embassy in China, except Hong Kong, are still closed, and they have no plans to reopen in the near future. Do we have any comment about anything to address that, or?
You know, I just looked, I checked on the State Department's website also, literally 15 minutes ago. You're right. They're definitely closed, and they mentioned something about emergency appointments, but those are not feasible at this time. We have seen students going to other countries to try to get logistically their visa appointment set up and get the visa, but that's also complicated because you have to get a visa possibly to enter that country you're visiting, and you have to see, could you stay there long enough to get the visa? And that's part of the challenge. We've seen some students go to Singapore. I just looked at Singapore also. They look like they do have appointments available. So you're going to have to be creative, or maybe if not, also just maybe wait it out until things change. Elsa, do you have any other comments on that one?
Yeah, I think they're operating at a reduced capacity right now because of the COVID pandemic, and that's been the case for the past year. And they will be reopening on a post-by-post basis, so stay tuned. I did hear a rumor today that things would look better in May. I hope that's the case, and we'll all cross our fingers. Megan, do you have any inside information?
No, I think just what all of you have shared, that it's being done on a post by post basis, but the request has been made by many in the higher education community to reopen, to start the process of reopening the consulates in China. So this visa processing can commence once again. And they are aware of, the State Department is aware of our concerns.
All right, I will then move to our next question. So if Stanford switches back to in-person teaching in the fall, is it possible to still make remote studying or teaching, so like recording the lectures, an option for international students who face visa delays? And so that we don't have to defer our admission.
So this question is being asked from a brand new incoming student, right?
Hard to tell.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
hard to tell, but it might not be. It might be any student who is in China waiting for a visa.
yeah,
So maybe Stacy
And
can
try
you
to
talk about
address
that?
that. Yes,
Yes,
let me
thank you.
try to answer that. So unfortunately, there will be very limited opportunities for online classes in the fall because the university is not planning to do a hybrid in-person and online. So if we're having in-person classes, it's very hard to do them online. That said, there for incoming frosh, there will be some freshman year classes that they are trying to make available remotely just for fall quarter. So the university is working to try to make that possible. For other students, they're really recommending at the undergraduate level that if they cannot get here to defer until they can come in person. The graduate classes are a little bit more variable because it really will depend on the program. In general, again, it's really the focus from the university is going to be an on-campus, in-person classes, but we're encouraging graduate students who would find themselves in this situation to reach out to their programs and departments to see what can be possible.
if you're a PhD student who is has the TGR status, terminal graduate registration, and working on your thesis, that should not be a problem with you staying outside of the US and maintaining your F1 student status. But I'm not sure if that's a small group of the people we're talking with today.
And
I did get
that,
clarification. It is an incoming student.
Okay.
I think the issue is also the where immigration regulations and Stanford's requirements meet, right? So it depends on many factors. I guess it would be the best thing to check in with the department because we don't know how that department will be structuring their offerings for graduate students and PhDs. Yeah.
So the next question is, okay, so let's say that like a visa gets approved. Can I actually travel from China to the States directly? I see that Chinese travelers are being prohibited entry into the US. I don't know if Bechtel staff Elsa maybe can start.
Oh, yeah, as far as I know, there's still a Chinese travel ban,
Right.
unfortunately. And there still is with a lot of other countries around the world because of the COVID pandemic. So that has not been lifted yet.
Yeah, Brazil is right there with China.
Yeah,
And
and even the Schengen countries that
Schengen,
that
Yep.
hasn't been lifted yet. So we are in a position where we're waiting for those restrictions to be eased. And I do, again, I'm hopeful that by May and June, those restrictions will be lifted.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything to add? Okay, we'll move on. Oh,
No, it's okay. I'm already reading the second question, I think.
Let Ankita.
Yeah, I'll let you. Yeah, I'll let you.
Yes.
My
Okay,
mind's
so-
moving.
So first of all, someone says thank you. So you are welcome for hosting this. So with the travel ban still in effect, so continuing along the same line, would we be able to travel via third country and stay there for 2 weeks? So if we're not able to travel directly, can we travel somewhere else and then travel to the US from China?
Yolanda, you want to take that, or do you want me?
Sure.
Oh,
That's something that we have seen occur. So what we've seen some students is, go to Mexico for several weeks. Pick the coast. Might as well work on your 10. You know, and we have seen that happen. So they'll go to a place like Mexico, or they'll go to a place like Singapore, and then enter from there to the U.S. But it's up to the Customs Border Protection official to determine your intent and eligibility to enter the United States. We have not heard of any Stanford students that have been denied entry. Elsa, do you know of anyone? I have not heard of
no,
any.
but I would just say, if you are planning on doing it that way, if you're stopping in Cambodia, Singapore, Ecuador, or Mexico on your way to the United States, spending 2 weeks there, make sure you document your stay. Make sure that you can show that you entered that country, stayed for 2 weeks, the full 14 days, and then attempted entry into the United States.
Yeah, I think very early on in the pandemic last year, we had heard of a case, not a Stanford student, who had gone to a third country, waited it out, and then attempted entry, and the officer did not let them in. But I think that was right when all this craziness was happening and very little information was out. And, but we are seeing more students going to third countries.
Thank you. Okay, I think I'll move on to the next one because I think we can try to provide some context. So I put my request for a visa in. It's been an administrative process. Can Stanford help me to accelerate the process?
That's a very good question. There's a level of frustration with this one, because what's happening when administrative processing is taking place, they might tell you it could take 2 to 4 weeks. I do not believe that. I'm sarcastic on that 2 to 4 week processing time. It could take months, 2 to 4 months easily, to do the administrative processing. The administrative processing, all that is that there's another entity, another agency, part of the US government, that's doing a background check on you. And they take time. It could be the FBI, it could be someone else that exists that we don't know that exists that's checking you out. And so you have to wait for that. So the embassy itself is not delaying the process. It's this background check that's delaying it. And I have not seen any quick way to try to get that done and processed quickly. We have sometimes suggested to students to contact our local congresswoman, Anna Ishu's office, to see if they can step in. But the reality is that not much can be done. If you want to try to contact our local representative, maybe that might be an idea, but it's difficult because I've seen the responses that they give to our colleagues, which are fantastic, at Anna Ishu's office, by the way. Do you have anything else to add, Elsa, or anyone? No? Okay.
Okay, so next question. If I can't enter the US before the start date of my program, can I apply for a late arrival, for permission for late arrival?
Let's have Stacy take that. Can students come in late to start their programs?
Okay, yeah, that is going to be I assume we're talking about graduate students here. It's going to be very dependent on the program. The student will have to reach out to the program. Some programs will be able to allow that and others won't. But again, I think what we're talking about here is a delay on the order of some number of weeks. If it's going to be longer, then it may get into other issues.
Yeah, and the other issue for me is, will the Customs Border Protection officer let you in the country if you're entering so late? Because normally you're supposed to enter 30 days before the start date of your document, of your I-20 or DS 2019. And if you're entering a week or two late, I would suggest that the student get a letter from the department saying that the department wants to enter Stanford, to come to school to Stanford, and that they're okay understanding that they might be running a little late. But you can't run too late. And so the question is, well, now what is too late? 1 week, possibly 2 weeks. It's up to the Customs Border Protection officer. Stanford has a legal obligation to register you in the SEVA's database no later than 30 days from the start date of the school program. And without getting too much more into this, we start registering students about 3 or 4 weeks after the start date of the program, because we're letting the students enroll figure out their classes. But we have legal obligations to that record that you're part of in the SEVA's database. So you can't be delaying your entry too late. Even if the department says it's okay to enter late, you got to remember it's the Customs Border Protection official who will try to understand your situation. If it gets a little complicated, you're going to be sent to secondary inspection. Right there, just explain everything honestly, and you should be okay. All right.
So Rolando, can you also address what happens if a student has a document with a fall start date and is then going to join us in the winter quarter? What should they be doing?
Yeah, if you have a document, an I-20 with a fall start date, which was September, and winter quarter starts March 29th, you should have gotten a new I-20 from our office, and you would have submitted a request through Bechtel Connect, shows the proof of funding sources again. Our office will reissue you a new I-20 with the March 29th date. But that you should have asked for that one a little earlier, by the way. So now the question is, well, do we choose a different start date? Do you start, say, in summer, in a June, what summer starts when, around third week of June or so? I'm not sure. With a new start date, you have to request a new I-20, okay?
Thanks, Rolando.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have lots of questions. So I'm gonna go on to the next one. So for current student now, is there a way to renew a student visa while physically in the US? And if we have to get out of the country to renew it, could we do that during the normal quarter?
Yeah, that's a good question. And let me stop you right there because it's a loaded question. Can you renew a visa in your passport in the US? No. That's it. The quick answer is no.
So Rolando, maybe
And
also explain that it's not necessarily necessary.
exactly. And that's the second part to
Okay.
this. So can you remain in the US with an expired visa in your passport? Yes. I've known some students that have been here for 5 years with expired visas. They got a visa that was for, in some cases, 3 months. And they've been here PhD level for 5 years with an expired visa. You know, that's fine. Legally, you're okay with an expired visa. Think of the visa as a door knock or the bell that you ring on the front of the door to let you into the United States. You're already in the United States. You don't need to ring the doorbell. So you could be here with an expired visa. It's quite all right. But if you left the country, you would have to get a new visa. And if you went back to Asia, Europe, Africa, wherever, you would have, except there's a rule called the contiguous territory rule that says you can go to Canada or Mexico for a period of under 30 days, but not to request a visa, just to travel to Canada or Mexico for under 30 days with a copy of your electronic record, the I-94 record, and you would be permitted to re-enter the United States. You physically have to print out the I-94 record. If you don't, you could be denied re-entry. If you're denied re-entry, then you're going from whatever port of entry you're trying to get it to back to your home country. So that's called the contiguous territory rule. You cannot be applying, you cannot go to Mexico. Well, you cannot travel from the US to Mexico, apply for the visa, and then attempt re-entry with an expired visa. You will be denied entry to the US. That's a no-no. The contiguous territory rule doesn't allow for that. So be careful what you hear. I always joke about you guys talking to your friends, although it's nice to talk to friends. Talk to us about advice regarding visas, okay?
Great, and then I think it's asked if you could still take courses and continue research, and I think Stacy talked about courses are not going to be continue to be virtual starting in the fall. Research may depend on department, if this is, I don't know if this is a grad student or not. I don't know if there's any other part to add to that.
No, I think that's it.
When in doubt, contact Bechtel and Rolando, because Rolando has so much information.
Yeah, and we have a whole team.
We have a whole
team.
We have a fantastic staff. I always brag about them. They're incredible. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you can reach out and be real good about giving us your student ID number, the 06 number. It starts with 06 probably, or if you've been here a long time or too long, 05. My number started with 03. I'm not sure who else is in this staff started that long ago. And also mention your SEVAS number. That's the number on the top left side of your I-20. It starts with N00. We need to know those numbers, okay? Whenever you reach out to international students at stanford.edu.
The next question is a little bit different, but I'm really glad it got asked. And maybe Mona and I can take a stab at this one. So I'm a continuing student. I'm currently on campus. Is there any safety precaution being given due to the current wave of Asian hate crimes? So super serious. And go
No,
ahead.
thank you, whomever raised this question. And I'm sad to say that there's so much uncertainty in our world, and including hate around our identities. And what I can say that's certain, that while being at Stanford, there are plenty of people who want to accompany you in your journey, your Stanford experience and journey. And from a safety standpoint, I always want to go back to the basic or simple rules that maybe you can carry in your phone. And that's the number to Stanford DPS. If you are physically or psychologically unsafe, the graduate life office dean number or the residence dean number for undergraduates are always a phone call away from you, as well as all the people on this call who have taken the journey you're now on and want to make sure that you are able to complete it. And so I'm always, in the midst of all the uncertainty, I'm certain of that. And should any student ever experience bias or hate or any harm around your identity, who you are, or who you're aspiring to be, we have lots of mechanisms to respond. One, to your well-being and care, and two, to the extent possible or where possible, hold others accountable when they don't live up to the standards in our community. And this is certainly one of those situations. And so that is certainly where my office, the Dean of Students office, and great colleagues like Ankita, we work together to make sure that anywhere you are, you have a safe place, safe connect. There's I don't know what color the blue light phones are always available while you're walking on campus, but certainly there's resources that you can always call to come to you to help ensure that you are safe. And there's resources that can be called upon in the Dean of Students office to make sure you are empowered to find safety if should anything happen to you. And Keith, is there anything I missed?
Yeah, I'll maybe just add that there's very specifically, so if you're walking somewhere on campus, there's something called 5 Sure, so you can get someone to walk with you, no questions asked. We are also continuing to build up resources and responses. So if there are additional things that we need to think about, or if you have ideas for things, please reach out to us. I'll add my contact information and you can reach out to me specifically. And then, as Mona mentioned, if you do experience something, we have great mechanisms for reporting that will help us, one, work with police, but also help you and the student community to heal from that. So we have something called the Acts of Intolerance process, and really, if someone sent that out, that's awesome. Thank you. So you can look out for that too. So we're trying to put in some protective measures and some ways to combat this. I'm gonna move on. So for a 5th year PhD student, I'm going to defend my thesis by the end of the year. Congratulations. Is there a way that I could potentially do that online during the fall?
I guess that one's for me. Wonderful. Congratulations on getting close to finishing. So I think there are probably 2 parts to that question. As far as the thesis defense online, programs and departments will have flexibility to approve that online, as we've been doing so far in the pandemic. So the defense itself can be approved at the program level. There's a question of being away from campus still from the financial perspective. So if you're a doctoral student, the university is not able to fund students overseas. So that's something, again, that would need to be discussed with your program. But the thesis defense part, I think, should be doable.
I wanted to add something. I'm just curious if they're submitting the thesis fall quarter, is it? And you are not in the US and you wanted to work in the US, you have to get back here in the US to then apply for post-completion practical training. You physically have to be in the US on the day that you submit the application for employment authorization to the Immigration Service. You cannot file that form outside of the United States. So if you're saying, I'm going to be outside of the US, submit my thesis, well, you need to get back in if you want to work in the US as an F1 student. Just a real quick mention of that, okay? Just a heads up. You can only apply at the earliest 90 days before your degree conferral date. And I think the conferral date for fall quarter will be, what, January 6th or something, 4th, around there, 2022. So you can apply for post-OPT 90 days before that date, but you physically have to be here in the US. So don't miss that opportunity, okay?
And there is a second question. There's a different person that asked the same question, but also asked, does this change with or without TGR? And excuse me, I'm not sure if that was answered or not. But.
I think it's a variation on the earlier question, but just to make it clear, I mean, TGR will help with the fact that you may not have access to classes online, but TGR or not, there's still the issue of the university not being able to provide financial support for those in programs that get it, like the doctoral program for students who are not in the US. So there are probably some on this call who might have been an exception this past year, but the university is not going to be able to continue funding students overseas. That was an exception for a pandemic year, but as we return to normal, the university is not going to be able to carry that forward, with very rare exceptions. So if, again, I encourage everybody finding themselves in the situation to reach out to their program and department. If they have questions, they will reach out to the right university offices.
Thank you, Stacy. So there's another follow-up question to that. Does that basically mean that I give up my offer if I'm not allowed to come?
I hope nobody gives up their offer. I think incoming students, if they cannot get here, certainly should reach out to their program and ask if they would be allowed to defer their admission. And many programs will consider that, and even in a non-pandemic year, and certainly they'll be much more open to considering that due to the circumstances with having trouble getting visas.
Thank you. Okay, what is, for students that are approaching their graduations, what is the most appropriate timeline to start an OPT application?
That's yours, Rolando.
It sure is. I eat, breathe that stuff. There's a time frame that revolves around the date of conferral of your degree. You're graduating June 13th. The law allows you to apply as early as Albert Einstein's birthday, okay? And as late as 60 days after graduation. All right, so look up Albert Einstein's birthday, March 14th. Pi 3.14. So we have tons of material regarding this issue. I did a presentation in March, got videotaped, lasted about an hour and a half. You really need to listen to it and review the material we have. It will take 3 to 4 months for you to receive the work permit, the employment authorization document. We've seen some students that graduated this past quarter that they got their permits in around 80 or so days, which is fast. That's great. I've told one student already to change the name of the Bechtel International Center because he was so lucky he should go play the lottery. So I think there's plenty of material for you to read, do some homework. Our office will issue you the I-20 with the endorsement for post-OPT. There's a checklist of items, at least 7, 8 items that you have to piece together. You're going to send to Chicago. The fee is $410. Once Chicago gets it, they send it to the Potomac Service Center in Virginia. Once they get it, they sit on it and do nothing for several months, and you wait and wait and wait. Once you get the work permit, fantastic. Just make sure you have an address that's good for at least 4 to 5 months, because you're going to get kicked out of the housing in August. And if you apply and you're not living somewhere where the EAD can be delivered, maybe pick a friend who's a PhD student. They tend to be here a long time, and basically use someone else's address. You can do that. Very important. We don't want the EAD card to get lost.
Thank you, Rolando.
Mm-hmm.
Will financial aid cover extra expenses if I have to get an extra flight and stay in another country?
So I do know the answer to this question because it was asked last year, and I'm afraid the answer is no. Financial aid will not support a trip to a third country for visa purposes or to circumvent or a travel ban.
Thanks, Elsa. So there's a student that's asking, from what I know, Chinese students, especially those that have studied STEM, sometimes face lengthy security checks, administrative processing when they get their visas. So has this changed under the current Biden administration? Megan, I don't know if you can help with that.
Sure, I'll give it a try. Unfortunately, we're still very much in the early days of the Biden administration. And I think given the ongoing challenges with the pandemic on top of just the normal change, when you have a change in administration, the normal staffing that has to be done both at the Department of Homeland Security and at state. We haven't really gotten a sense yet whether or not at what level they plan to change policies or improve processing times. And so my only advice is just we're still sort of in a wait and see mode on that.
Thanks, Megan. We have a couple of I-20 questions. So how do we request a renewal of I-20? Have you already mailed them out? How will we be notified? I don't know if we can get a 101.
Sure, you want to go, Rolando, or do you
I'll do part of it and I'll share. Okay. Right now, the Immigration Service has been very, very flexible with current students, saying that we can issue PDF files of an initial I-20 and send them. Okay. But I mean, that makes it very convenient. When you get the PDF, you download the PDF, print the I-20, sign and date page 1. And remember to read page 3, which nobody ever does, but do. New incoming students for the fall, those I-20s we will be physically mailing to you. Okay.
But we'll first send you an email with your SEVIS ID and your tracking number of your hard copy document. Right. You can pay the SEVIS fee with that number, and then you can make the appointment at the embassy with that number. So that's to expedite the whole process for you. Right.
The SEVIS fee, you need to know that number. I'm sorry, the SEVIS fee number, which is on the SEVIS ID of your I-20, starts with N00. My colleague will send you that number so that you can pay the SEVIS fee, as Elsa mentioned. You will print out the receipt for paying that, I believe it's $350 right now for that fee. And you keep that receipt and that, oh, it's higher?
Yeah.
It's going higher?
Yeah.
Okay, well, everything's going higher. And you print that receipt, keep it with you. When you go to the appointment, take that with you along with your letter of acceptance to Stanford, proof of funding sources, the I-20, okay? And that fee, by the way, it's good for 12 months. So my concern is that if you don't get the visa within 12 months, which I'm optimistic that you will, but if you didn't, you might have to repay the SEVIS fee again, okay? But don't worry about that right now. Just pay the fee once you get your, once you know your number, and then print out that receipt. Let's see, next question.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna go to, does it make a difference? We talked a little bit about transfer back and forth with visas. Sorry, we talked about a little bit about visas, but does it make a difference if it's a transfer student? You go back to China, can you apply to the US without applying for a new visa? Can you enter?
Good topic.
I'm really glad somebody brought this
Somebody's
up.
asked that.
I'll let you answer, Elsa.
We do have an important announcement to make. First of all, for your question, if you've transferred from another US institution and the SEVIS number is the same, but the name of the institution is different because you're transferring from University of whatever to Stanford, that visa is absolutely valid. There's no question about it. We've been getting a lot of questions from students about whether if they don't have the name of Stanford or the same CVIS number that they've had in the past on their visa stamp, but the visa stamp is still valid. Can they enter the United States with a brand new I-20 and new CVIS number from Stanford? And the answer is yes. So we want you to know that if you are in that boat, if you have a valid visa, but neither the name of the institution or the CVIS number is the same as the one that you will have, then you are eligible to enter the country. And we want to make sure that you know that. That's recent guidance coming out of the Border Control.
Yeah, the legal side, yeah.
We want to make sure that you know that, and please pass it on.
Yeah, that's good news.
Yep,
Good news.
it is good news.
And
Okay.
by the way, if you're transferring from another school to Stanford, you're not subject to that 30-day rule that says you can only enter 30 days before the start date of your I-20.
Right.
Sometimes immigration officials think that you cannot enter earlier than 30 days. And I was just emailing a student earlier this morning who was planning to enter in July. And I said, you will be allowed to enter. Now, I always tell students, don't argue with anybody that has a badge and a gun, which is the Customs Border Protection officer. Just be very polite and say, you know, my school official, I asked them this question, this is what they told me. And we're comfortable telling you that you won't have a negative experience. But if you have an officer, I mean, there's 20 plus different types of visas that classification of visas that exist. And the officers don't know everything about everything when you enter the country. But this one, you should not have any difficulty entering, even if you enter earlier than 30 days before, because you transferred from one school, kept the same CVIS number, and coming to Stanford with that same tracking number on the CVIS database.
I just want to add one more thing is that we usually recommend to students that if they're flying to the US, that they fly in directly to the San Francisco International Airport, because we do have some connections with them. And if there's a student who they're questioning, sometimes they will pick up the phone and they will call us. And so then we can verify and help you through the process. So a big recommendation, fly in through San Francisco.
Yeah, SFO is a good place to land, generally speaking, I would say.
Yeah. It's known around the country as being an excellent port of entry.
Yeah, and they have tons of entries every day.
Yeah.
And fortunately or unfortunately, I'm in first name basis with at least 4 supervisors at the SFO. Yeah.
Stacy, maybe you can take this one. We answered if you can be remote in the fall, but can a student do remote in the summer for the summer quarter?
I think that if they have been if they're unable to get their visa, that's probably an easier continuation than the fall. I think the expectation is that we'll be as close to normal as possible in the fall. So I don't know that student's particular situation. Again, they will have to reach out to their program, but I think it's an easier situation in the summer.
Okay, hopefully that helped. We have a couple of questions about Proclamation 143. Megan, I don't know if you want me to read the questions or if you want to make a general response.
It's just helpful to make a general statement. And this is the Military Civil Fusion Proclamation that limits the entry of certain graduate students and researchers that was put in place by President Trump last year. Unfortunately, the Biden administration has not indicated whether they have any plans to rescind this proclamation. And to be honest, we don't have any sense on whether or not or how they might be currently enforcing it and how that's different from how the Trump administration had enforced it in the past. And that's in large part due to the fact that I think the administration's general approach to relations with China is developing. We have and will continue to communicate the importance that any effort to address security concerns must be narrowly tailored and not be a discriminatory policy that is a blanket restriction on country of origin or heritage of specific individuals.
Yeah, so if you're an incoming PhD student, let's say, and you attended undergraduate school as one of those schools that are mentioned, my suggestion is maybe wait this one out. Maybe you defer your acceptance, or maybe if you're allowed to do distance learning, that's a different issue. But to let the things pass over and maybe things might get better, so you can come to Stanford.
Thank you, Rolanda and Megan. A graduating master's student, what should I apply for if I get stranded in the US due to COVID-related flight interruptions, like the cancellation or I'm being denied boarding?
Well, this
So
is someone who's graduating on June 13th.
Correct. That's what it seems like. Mhm.
Okay, you have 60 days to remain legally in the United States, generally speaking. So just be careful with your flights. There are more and more flights are being scheduled now. Elsa, did you want to add anything else?
no, I think in the extreme cases last year, we had people applying for change of status, but I don't think that's advisable
Yeah,
at this point.
no.
Yeah.
No,
But the other,
go ahead.
is the other option also not to apply for OPT, which allows you to at least wait it out?
That's true. If you apply for
Yeah.
post OPT, you just extended what's called your duration of status,
Yeah.
and you can remain. You can apply and if you leave the country and decide not to, after you've applied, you decide not to work in the U.S., you need to contact our office, because once the work permit begins and you don't work, and it exceeds 90 days of unemployment, technically it could be seen as a violation of status. But you just contact our office and say, I received the EAD card, employment authorization document, I return home, I'm not going to work. Then what we'll do is we'll look into shortening or explaining that terminating your record for authorized early withdrawal, and that way you don't get in any trouble in the future. Okay.
Okay, one more question about visas, but complicated with passports. So if my passport is about to expire in 1 year, but my visa is still valid for 4 years, do I need to apply for a new visa with my new passport, or can I take my old expired passport with a valid visa with the new passport?
Well,
Keep both of them.
yeah,
right?
I would
both.
say get a rubber band, put them
So
both together.
It's very important that you don't let your passport expire. So apply for a
Yeah.
new passport, but
Right.
request your old passport back from your embassy or consulate. Yeah,
Right.
because sometimes they keep them. So you really do have to
No.
specifically ask for it to be returned.
Yep.
And just always travel with both.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
Great. Okay, another somewhat of a complicated question. So I came back to China in 2019 and I haven't gotten back to the US since. And I came here for undergraduate studies. So I'm assuming this is a grad student. So before the policy had started, my visa will be expired 5 months. My visa expired 5 months after leaving the US. So now if there's a different institution name and CVIS number, and the visa and on the visa, the expiration date is 6/21, I'm wondering if I can still use this visa. Should I repeat the question?
Well, if I understood you correctly, you did undergrad, now you're doing grad, and you have a valid visa. We've been told that a valid visa is a valid visa, essentially. So you won't have to visit the embassy to get a new visa, even though the I-20 that you might be getting as a grad student might have a different CVIS number. This is a new interpretation, okay? So the good news is that you'll be able to use a valid visa, the F1 visa, even though it's for a different school with a different CVIS number. That's the way we understand that.
I'm just a little curious. It says the
Yeah.
expiration date is 6/21.
Right.
So if the expiration date on your visa stamp is in fact 6/21, that doesn't give you a whole lot of time to enter the United States, because you have to enter before the expiration date. So I'm
Well,
not
true.
sure. Yeah,
And also, if school starts in September,
right.
this one's not going to work.
No,
If school starts
it's
in
not gonna work.
summer, it will work.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So it sounds like you might need go ahead and reapply for a new visa. You can apply for a new visa even though you have a current one that's valid. And what the embassy official will do, they'll stamp that the valid visa, they'll stamp it canceled without prejudice. CW, sometimes they write CWP on it. That's what that means, cancel without prejudice. And then they issue the visa on the other one, on the clean page or a new passport. Okay. but I've never seen them cancel a visa without prejudice and then not issue the visa. That I have not seen. Okay. All right. Next question.
Okay, this is maybe Mona can help take a stab at this one. It's about undergraduate housing for the summer for clearly an international student. So I learned that we aren't granted housing on campus for the summer unless we are enrolled full time or we have campus employment. I tried to make housing arrangements off campus, but is there something that can be considered for on campus, or is there an exception, or is there a policy or something they can work with?
Absolutely. We have been committed throughout the pandemic to identify students who are international students as eligible as a special circumstance for housing. Because I can't navigate all of the complications that have been shared today that our students do, this is our one commitment to assure that you have access to campus and a safe living should you not find it elsewhere. So I believe the week of April 19th or the week of April 26th, there will be information about an application for summer housing, and all students will be given the opportunity to apply. And that's where a student can denote, I am an international student. I was not able to get access to housing, and I would like to live on campus. And that circumstance will be reviewed and considered so that you're eligible to live on campus in the summer. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to jump in here for a minute. I know that we are fast approaching the 6 p.m. here, and our hour is almost over. I just wanted, perhaps Rolando can talk about what we can do for students who haven't had their questions answered today. What would be the best way for them to reach out? Perhaps you can talk about that group advising on Thursday and Fridays, Rolando.
Yes, definitely.
That's one way.
Yep. We have group advising sessions Thursdays and Fridays at 9 a.m. Okay. And what are you, 16 hours ahead? I can't remember where.
Yeah, I don't know if that's too convenient, actually.
Yeah.
It's not convenient.
Yeah, because that's 15 hours ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not convenient. Well, let's think. If we record sessions regarding visa issues. We have those already on our website, so you can listen to some of those other recordings. Frequently, especially about employment or travel, there's tons of information recordings on that you can reach out and listen to at any time. Maybe we might have to think about doing a session in the evening. We have done that, by the way. We've done, and I'm famous for getting up really early in the morning. And so by 7 in the morning, I've already worked 4 hours. So if maybe we do a 7 in the morning or 7 at night session, and that way, if you're ahead 15 hours, we can try to catch you at some reasonable time. But that's food for thought. We could look into that.
We'll talk about it, but I do want to acknowledge that, there's so much, there's so many students who are reaching out to us with emails and with requests for appointments that very often you'll go in and you'll find that you can't make an appointment, that all the appointments slots are full. And so we're sort of trying to figure out the best way that we can be as helpful to as many students as possible. We receive hundreds of emails every week, and I know that my colleagues
every day
every day. And so in some ways we ask you to be patient, even though we know it's really difficult, but we are working as hard as possible and as quickly as possible, and we'll try and find some creative ways that we can address your questions. And as Rolando said, perhaps think of some different timings that might suit you all.
Yeah, I think.
But we'll be in touch.
If you do send email to internationalstudents@stanford.edu, be patient. It's taking us 3 to 5 days. We're constantly working on those emails. Okay.
Yeah.
Just be patient and don't email again, because then you'll take that email out of sequence and they'll make it later arrival of that email on our chain of emails. So like I said, we'll get to your question. Just be really good about putting your student ID number, your CVIS number, and we'll answer you.
And if you can, stay up until 3 o'clock in the morning, where you are, join us for a Thursday and Friday.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be
open
doing
hours.
tomorrow's session at 9 in the morning, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not recorded. The Thursday and Friday sessions are not recorded, but we're happy to answer those questions there. Yeah.
Well,
so what is it?
it is 6 p.m.
I know. I
we-
also see that we have quite a few questions. They're addressing what I just said. Beckel has done a wonderful job serving students, but I also see it's being understaffed. Questions and demands go weeks on, maybe a little bit of an exaggeration there, but I completely acknowledge the fact that we are not as quick answering emails as we would really, really like to be, or have more open slots for students. So bear with us. We're trying to figure out how we can be more responsive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I do want to respect all the panelists' time and students' time, because I know you are also probably have a busy day ahead of you if you're in China. So thank you very much. We put an email address out. You can ask those questions. I said that I would include my email address. I cannot answer any of the immigration questions. This is for student support questions. If it's housing or trying to understand what resources are out there, you can email me. Not immigration questions, just want to make sure that I clarify that. Otherwise, I'll just forward it to the international student side. And we will continue to be in touch. And as we get updates, let you all know. I don't know if anyone else has any closing remarks that they want to share from the team.
I always say to be patient and be resilient and be safe. That's the way I always end my Zoom sessions. But anybody else wants to add something, feel free.
Well, just a thank you to all of the students who've joined us, and a big thank you to all the panelists who are here today. I think that we've been able to sort of communicate a little bit with the students, get to know some of their concerns a little bit better, and I thank you very much for being available. And if we were to do this again, I would invite you all to join us again, and I hope you will. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you all.
We'll see you. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye-bye. Ankita, is it possible to grab all those questions